Well, hello and welcome to this edition of Under the Umbrella. I'm WDTN Plus meteorologist Melissa Barrington. Today we have a pretty interesting topic for you. We are going to be talking about a community energy pilot program that recently passed in the Ohio House of Representatives. And today we are joined by Mryia Williams, who is with Solar United Neighbors, and she is the Ohio Program Director. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. So I don't know a lot about solar energy, so this looks like it's going to potentially interest a lot of folks here. But let's start with how extreme heat and severe weather and rain affects the reliability of electricity in Ohio.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure that you guys have all experienced the same things that I have in Central Ohio, where we have a big storm come through. It damages those transmission lines, and it makes it so that, we lose power. And those outages are longer than ever before. And so instead of having that be this big energy source that's out of state or far away from us, what we're hoping to do with community energy is put those generation sources closer to home. So it would be a parking lot near you or on a warehouse roof near you or on one of these brown fields that could use redevelopment. And they would put in that energy generation, and then it would help to reduce energy bills by being closer to home and make it less likely to be disrupted by a storm because the energy isn't having to travel as far and on as many wires.
And that is coming through solar panels, correct?
The community energy bill is actually an all above approach to energy. So it could be solar, it could be wind, it could be hydro or battery storage or fuel cells. There's a variety of things in it. But we do expect most of the energy sources to end up being solar just because the size of these projects is much smaller than baseload energy.
Okay. Well, hopefully that'll help some of us out because, otherwise you see all the time, like where they're bringing in folks from other states, and maybe that won't happen quite as much if folks adopt more of this.
Yeah, and that's most of these developers that will work on creating these projects want to work with those local workers, and they want to use local goods. So one of the things we got to do last month was go on a tour of TerraSmart. And that's a manufacturer right in Cincinnati, Ohio, that prides itself on using Ohio steel in their projects that they're making. So that's two sets of Ohio jobs right there before you even break ground, because you've got those steel worker jobs and then you've got those manufacturing jobs that are somewhat local here to Dayton, with it being a manufacturer in Cincinnati.
Okay. You're all over the state here, too,
Yeah.
it sounds like. Why does local clean energy, like community energy, help communities stay resilient?
So it helps communities stay resilient because it's putting that energy closer to home, like we talked about with the weather impacts. And it's also helping because it's not having to have those line losses that you would, have whenever you are transporting that energy further. Because every little tiny space it goes through, of course, there's this little tiny bit of drop off. And that costs people money because it's just like wasting anything. Whenever you have that energy waste, it means that that's energy that's not being used by somebody, but it's being paid for somewhere along the way. So the closer to home we can bring that energy and have those local jobs and that local impact, the more value it brings to the community.
And how does community energy work, especially like for renters, and you have seniors and rural families who can't put or may not be able to put solar energies on their roof, for example, because they don't own their property?
Absolutely. That's my favorite part of this.
Okay.
So community energy impacts everyone because anybody can subscribe to it and share that array or share that wind turbine or share that energy generation just by having, that subscription. So you don't have to own your own roof. You don't have to have a roof that is free of shade. You don't have to have a roof that's in really good condition. You can just, subscribe to this program and benefit from it because it's there and available to you. So renters, low-income people who are, a little bit older and maybe on a retirement income that's limited, they don't have to be able to afford a wind turbine all by themselves. They can share one with their neighbors. They can share one with their church or the school in their neighborhood. And that way everybody gets to benefit.
So is there a co-op that is set up right now in the Dayton area?
So there isn't anything set up in the Dayton area right now because we don't have the laws completely in place. So what we'll see is once this passes the Senate, which we're going to be in coming up in late January, early February, whenever they return to session, once we get it passed there and it becomes enacted, then people will be able to start subscribing because the developers will start putting in these projects. And because they're small projects and they're not on the big transmission grid, they're very fast to go in. So where we usually see it be a multi-year process for new baseload generation, we expect these to be online in 6, 9, 12 months at most. And so these will be projects that you'll be able to get energy from right away. And that's a really great part of it too, because we're not going to be waiting for years for that generation that we need already. But those local projects will really make a big impact fast that way.
So if it passes the Senate, maybe we could see this coming to our area around early 2027, maybe?
Most likely, which is the perfect timing because PJM, our big regional transmission organization that's in charge of that bigger power network, has started saying that we're going to have shortfalls in energy in 2027, that we'll have demand that's outpacing the supply available. And instead of having rolling blackouts, which nobody wants,
No.
We would definitely love to see this be brought online and be helping compensate for those shortfalls.
Okay. So how does the program work once it does get here?
Yeah, so there will be a bunch of different projects that people will see. And where we're going to come in, Solar United Neighbors will have up on our webpage, and it'll be all free information available to people. What those different subscriptions look like will help you compare them, will help you find one that works for you. And that way people understand what the terms are. We usually pop up classes in areas whenever we do have something new like this, because we know that part of it is making that information relatable and accessible to folks. And, we're a nonprofit, so we have no interest in doing any of this work or doing any of the sales of it, but we do have an interest in making sure people are educated and supported in finding it. But it'll be just like you'd go to the apples to apples type website right now.
Well, we have your website up here right now.
Yeah.
So like people come to your website. Matt has pulled it up for us. So
Yes.
where would folks go here?
So
Like-
if we had this available, they'd be
Right.
able to find it on the Ohio page.
Okay.
But they can see samples of what other community programs look like by clicking on the little magnifying glass, and then they can type in something like community solar. And we have other programs because we operate in multiple states.
We're going to
And
do it
so,
for you right here.
It'll bring up, these different resources that you can find. We have a whole department of people that are dedicated to making sure that we have the community solar information available for other states like New Jersey that has a program already, or Maryland that has a program already. And so then it'll give you, your frequently asked questions on it. It'll give you information on it so you can learn more, read more. And then once we have it in Ohio, we'll have our own page about what our programs look like, how to find subscriptions for it, what good rates are from it, what benefits you can expect.
How many states already have this program?
22 states already have some form of community energy, community solar enacted. So we want to get in that top half, before we're falling behind the learning curve of getting this. And it is a pilot project. So if in 4 years it will go through an evaluation process, and if anything isn't working right for Ohio, we can make changes or we can drop the program altogether. But we fully expect it to help people save money and make that generation closer to home.
So this is a nationwide project then?
It is, but each state has to enact it individually. So,
Okay. Well, this sounds really interesting. How does the solar energy, how's it going to help, during storms that roll through the area? Like, when you have solar energy at your house, does that mean that your power stays on?
well, mine does.
Oh, okay.
I have battery backup along with solar at my house. So whenever my neighbors are out of power, I still have it running at my house.
They don't turn yours off at all?
No, because whenever you have a solar array on your house, you can get
Like
something.
this, right?
Yeah, like this. This is a home in Columbus, Ohio on the west side. So, it might be one that you'd see in your neighborhood too, is that little array like this. And I know this family also has a battery backup. So whenever they experienced an outage recently in their neighborhood, they were kind enough to open up, like the refrigerator to neighbors that had medications that needed to be stored because they had that available access to that power, even though there was an outage going on. And like they said, it doesn't disrupt your day. Is what they were talking about whenever we went and filmed this, because they were talking about how they work from home and they didn't lose their computer access. They didn't have to take time off. They didn't have that loss of income because they had solar on the roof and batteries in their basement. With the community arrays, though, or with community wind turbines or anything else, that's all dependent upon those wires being in place. But like I said, because it's only one set of the wires to your house, it's those distribution lines, those smaller ones that are usually better maintained because they're local and they're owned by the power companies, then it does benefit people because the energy doesn't have as many ways to be disrupted as it does if it's coming across the transmission lines and the distribution lines both to get to you. So, and some of the arrays and some of the wind turbines and stuff will put in those battery backups that are one of their options. And so they'll have stored energy that's available no matter what the weather is.
So do you have to change like power companies? Like if you're with like AES is what the main company is here. Do you have to change power companies if you switch over to a solar co-op?
Nope. Whenever you're participating in any of that community energy programs, you'll still be with your same provider. You may get a different supplier listed, but people are used to seeing that already because we have a lot of community aggregation programs. I know you guys have a really great one down here under AES where you can subscribe to solar power with a renewable energy source, or you can, participate in that community choice aggregation program to help lower your bills. And they bring generation as close to home as they can as well. But we're just wanting to help diversify that energy supply this little bit more with these community projects.
Wow, this is really interesting. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will continue our conversation with Mryia Williams from Solar United Neighbors. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Under the Umbrella. Today we are talking about a community energy pilot program, and we are talking with Mryia Williams, who is from Solar United Neighbors, and she is the Ohio Program Director. So this half of the segment, I want to focus a little bit on policy and progress of what we're seeing done at the State House. Can you tell me what's going on at the State House to expand community access to clean energy?
Yeah, so we started off the year with a big energy omnibus bill. It was Senate Bill 2 in the Senate side and then House Bill 15 in the House side. And they converged those two and just ran with, the energy omnibus package. And at first it contained things like demand response, which is where your power company can adjust your thermostat by a degree or two to help with energy consumption. And it contained community energy. And then they trimmed it in a little bit and took those pieces out. But it still had a lot of great things like heat mapping, which is where they look at, it's not actually heat, even though that's what the name is, but it talks about where there is power generation, where we need more power generation, and what it looks like in between those two things. And that way they can get a bigger picture, because we didn't have really great rules in place about how that information is gathered and stuff before. It had some transparency laws for what's on your energy bill and how it's conveyed to you, which is super great because that's not super easy to read right now. I know whenever I get my power bill, I'm like, what are all these lines? So we wanted to make that a better process for people. And then it had those OVEC subsidies, which were those coal plants, one in Ohio, one in Indiana, that we were all paying for every month. And it rolled that back and got rid of that remnant of House Bill 6. So it was a really good package. We were sad to be trimmed out of it, but we were ready for that. And so as soon as the fall session opened up, Representative Ray and Representative Hoops went immediately to work to introducing what is now House Bill 303. And that's our community energy bill. And so we made really fast progress. It was introduced in like late August, early September. And by Thanksgiving break, we were already voted through not only that committee with a unanimous vote of support there, but we had also made it through the House with what ended up being a 77-8 favorable vote for it to move to the Senate. So we'll be working on it in the Senate next year. And that's that big package that will include all the pieces to help you get lower power bills and energy close to home.
And I was reading like you had some kids come down from Cleveland too to help support the bill.
Yeah, so we want to have everybody involved and we want to help everybody understand what this is. And so the sign that you see Representative Ray holding, and that we have a couple of in the group picture,
Hmm.
that says Future Voters for Community Energy, that has where a bunch of students have signed it. And we've taken those out to local festivals like the Pawpaw Festival down in Albany, Ohio. We've taken them out to schools whenever we're talking to kids about what energy is and where it comes from. And we have them sign it because we want them to see that, they're impacted by energy as well. And they all have a bigger understanding of it than, we give them credit for sometimes, because they understand that this impacts mom and dad's budget. This impacts, grandma's house and how she stores her medications. And so they have big concerns about it. And we want to make sure that information is something they can understand as well.
So for for community energy, where are they located? The community energy generators, where are they located?
They're going to be in a variety of places. So it's a total project size of 1,500 megawatts, but that's going to be broken up into projects that are 20 megawatts or smaller. So those are not very big arrays. In comparison, whenever you see like one of these big installations for baseload generation that have to go through the Ohio Power Siting Board, those are 50 megawatts and bigger. So these projects won't even be ruled under some of those same laws and stuff that we already have in place, hence needing this new legislation. So these small arrays, though, can be located on a part of a farm, maybe some non-productive space that farmer has that he's wanting to still be able to profit from and keep in his family, and now he can lease that little space. They'll be on school parking lots or something like the Cincinnati Zoo that people might be visiting. They have a big array. They can't currently share that energy out because we don't have that, legislation in place. But somebody else that's putting in one in the future that's that size could absolutely be sharing it. And then the most exciting part, though, in this part of this to me is the 500 megawatts that are carved out specifically for brownfields. So we all have those industrial sites in our area that, a former plant was sitting on. We can't use that anymore. Nobody can live there. Kids can't play there. It's just sitting there being a blight. We have those big, mining sites. Coal mining was big in Ohio for a very long time. And those places aren't safe for people to be living on and be farming on and using in their community. It would be great, though, if we had some way to reinvent those spaces. And this is it. By putting in these small generation facilities, they're local to people. People already lived near those because they had worked there or they had mined there or whatever. And now they'll be able to benefit from the taxes that come in off of that, as well as this energy source being located closer to home. So that's very exciting to me that a full third of this project is carved out just for those brownfields.
And you said even like Second Street Market here in Dayton has solar energy. Is that
Yeah,
right?
Second Street Market actually has a little over a 70 kilowatt array. So it'd be very small in this, scale of even community energy, but it's very big for them. And it helps them to be able to reduce the overall cost of that facility. It makes it more economical for each one of those little vendors that are inside of there and can rent that space, that they're not having to pay in so much each month to power. And it just helps the building be overall more beneficial to the community because that is a local energy source, and they've got it right there on their rooftop. And I happen to know at the very end of the building, they've got this cute little display. So if you want to learn more about their array, they've got information right there on site at street level so that you can read about it, know what type of panels they are, who helped to influence that decision to put solar on the rooftop.
So if someone's interested in like solar energy for their home, where do they even start, or how do they find somebody to do this? I mean, is your website a good source?
It absolutely is. So as I mentioned before, we're a nonprofit.
Right.
So I don't have a pony in the race of who you decide on. I just want you to have good information and find reliable sources and trustworthy partners to put that solar on your roof. So we do not actually actively maintain the list of installers that we have available to people. But if they go to Green Energy Ohio, which is another nonprofit, they can look for the Ethical Solar Installer List. And those are solar installers all across the state of Ohio that have agreed to do really wonderful things. contribute back to their local, economy, to have people employed that are from their local area, to have good jobs training so that those people have steps forward, and to always be doing, I don't know, good sales calls. So we don't want them to, I'm sure you've seen them, you can go solar for free.
Yeah.
The power company will pay you. Those are all lies. That's not a truth. If it sounds too good to be true, grandma's right. It's too good to be true. But that list is all people that are not going to say those kind of things to you, because they know that's not how they should be selling solar. There is a cost to it, and you're going to have to pay for it if it's on your own roof. It does have a good return on investment, though, because you've got your own power source. You're buying your power instead of renting it, because every month I don't have that power bill coming due from my provider the same way that you probably do if you don't have solar.
No, I don't. I have an
Yeah.
electric vehicle, but
Yep.
but like, does the state, do they still do a reimbursement program? Like,
Yeah,
I
so
know that they used to have that. I don't know if they still do.
Yeah, the state doesn't have anything right now. They've talked about setting back up their eco program that they had before, but they haven't been able to put that back into play. And the federal tax credits are actually going away on December 31st of this year, because of that BBB that got passed
Yeah.
this summer, and they rolled back a lot of those benefits. But even without that, it's going to be a good return on investment, because I don't know if anybody else has looked at their power bill recently, but it has went up a couple times this year. And right now we're in another auction phase. So those power companies are in auction again on how much they're going to be paying. That'll end on, I think it's December 10th. So just a few days from now. And they'll get to do another rate increase at that point to help offset what they're having to pay. And we don't get a say in that. They're just going to bring it to us and be like, your bill was $80 last month. It's $100 this month. And, or even more than that. And it makes a big impact in people's pocketbooks.
So how do folks find out more or stay on top of this? Like, once the bill is, like you said, going to the Senate here in January, how do they stay on top of this to see if they can sign up for it?
Yeah, so you can drop by our website, solarunitedneighbors.org. You've been seeing it go by. It's really easy to use. If you search for Ohio, or if you're looking under I think it's under our resources that shows the different states we work in. There's stuff right there on our Ohio page about how to keep involved, how to know what's going on in your area, and how to get that information. So we send out pretty regular email messages, maybe a little bit more than some people love, but there's ways to turn that down. But I promise they're all good information, like if there's something going on at the PUCO, so our Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, then we automatically let people know about it, because we want them to be able to understand it and be involved. If there's something going on, like at the State House, we'll invite you to come along with us. Those people that you've seen in that group photo a few minutes ago, they're not all policy people, and I don't know if any of them actually work with me that were in that photo. So these are just average, everyday people that took an interest in what's happening and wanted to come and, see the process and make sure that, they understood what was happening and participate in it. So there's really great resources there, though, where you can contact us, you can get involved, you can follow along in an email. You can just go find us on Facebook or, other social medias. If you're just wanting bite-sized pieces. So
I looked at your title there, Solar United Neighbors, and I'm like, son.
Yeah.
That was very cute.
It's one of the best acronyms out there, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Mryia, for joining me today on Under the Umbrella. And thank you for watching. Hopefully you learned something that maybe you didn't know more about. Well, until next time, have a great night.